Tanse. I'm Kristanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Saskatchewan RCMP says they are investigating video and pictures that have been shared online showing a group of men allegedly holding guns and pretending to be police officers. Both the Beardies and Okamasas Cree Nation near Duck Lake, Saskatchewan, and the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations have released public statements on the matter. The FSIN says that they have received credible information from community members and frontline service workers about aggressive encounters involving individuals from outside their nations. The incidents include verbal harassment, stalking behavior, and intimidation in both urban and rural settings. Beardies and the FSIN are advising people to exercise caution and verify the identity of anyone claiming to be law enforcement and to call RCMP if the suspicious individuals are spotted. Anyone caught pretending to be a police officer could face imprisonment for up to 5 years. In a statement, Beardies and Okamasas Cree Nation says, "We urge all community members and our relatives in surrounding First Nations communities to remain vigilant following reports of foreign individuals impersonating police officers." There have been circulating photos on social media showing these individuals, which has raised concern about their activities in our communities. RCMP have not reported any kind of kidnapping incidents related to this investigation. Following a referendum last Friday, members of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation in southern Manitoba have turned down a mining partnership with CO Silica. The Alberta-based mining company offered the nation a 5% profit share in a proposed silica sand mine in southern Manitoba. 129 band members voted yes and 181 voted no to the partnership, totaling 310 ballots. The share would have generated an estimated $20 million of annual profit at full capacity. However, some expressed concerns about the project's environmental impact, including protesters who gathered at Broken Head on Friday. In a Friday email statement to APTN, CO Silica President Carla Devlin said they would respect the decision of Broken Head members, adding the project remains subject to provincial approval and our door will remain open for future dialogue should the community wish to re-engage. The Saskatchewan Health Authority has introduced a new policy that requires consent before cutting Indigenous patients' hair. The health authority says staff must not cut hair without permission from the patient or the person making health decisions. The new policy also specifies that cutting hair is not necessary to treat lice and should only happen for emergencies such as brain injuries or surgeries. The health authority says the new policy recognizes the spiritual and cultural significance of hair to Indigenous people. Last year, Métis elder Reuben St. Charles fractured his hip during the week of August 30th. He passed out from the pain, and when he woke up, surgery to his hip was done, along with his long hair suddenly cut. The health authority gave an apology and promised more measures would be put in place so an incident like this doesn't happen again. The Penelakut tribe in British Columbia has released interim findings of archival research and ground-based investigations at the former Quepper Island Indian Industrial School, located northwest of Victoria in BC. As many as 171 students are known through archival research to have died there, including 16 from suspicious causes. The tribe says they are now investigating 51 missing children, specifically students with missing information within archival records, whose final location or status cannot be determined. Penelakut's land-based team has surveyed more than 3,500 square meters using ground-penetrating technology, and through their search they have identified 342 unmarked graves in a cemetery and says more forensic work is needed. The Quepper Island Indian Industrial School opened in 1889 and operated until 1975. More than 2,100 students from about 73 different communities were forced to attend. Survivors from the school would later call it Alcatraz, after the maximum security prison in San Francisco Bay. Approximately 1/3 of the students within the first 20 years became deathly ill from sicknesses due to overcrowding, and the school was also set on fire in 1895 when holidays were canceled for the students. During last Monday's announcement on the new findings, the federal government was invited, but they did not attend. A First Nation in the Northwest Territories says they have recently discovered unmarked graves at the site of a former Indian residential school. Our APTN Yellowknife video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz has more.
New findings have been released in the ongoing investigation, which began in 2022. In a press release dated August 7th, Chief Louis Balsley of the Dene Nuquay First Nation said 7 unmarked burials were found at Mission Island, the site of the St. Joseph's Indian Residential School operated by the Catholic Church between 1857 and 1890, when it was moved to Fort Resolution. An archaeology team hired by the First Nation used aerial photos and cadaver dogs to locate the burials, which they say are those of 5 children and 2 adults. The causes of death are unknown, and community elders say there could be another 60 unmarked burials. In a prepared statement, Chief Balsley says he is committed to finding closure for everyone involved. His statement in part says, "While growing up, I heard stories of children who were mistreated at the school, children who got sick and died because of malnutrition or abuse. Now we are finding children buried on Mission Island. I am committed to continuing our investigation into what happened at the schools to bring about so many deaths." Bruce Dela Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Meanwhile, 2 men accused of selling forged works by the late First Nation artist Norval Morrisseau have pleaded guilty in a multi-million-dollar fraud case in Ontario, and one will soon learn his fate. CTV's Luke Simard reports.
84-year-old convicted art fraudster Jim White left the Newmarket courthouse as he awaits his sentence.
Do you have anything else to say about today, or?
It's nice and sunny.
In June, White pleaded guilty to producing forged documents, possession and trafficking of more than 500 pieces of fake art mimicking the works of Norval Morrisseau. Some pieces sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Morrisseau, often called the Picasso of the North, is widely recognized as the grandfather of contemporary Indigenous art in Canada. Morrisseau died in 2007. For years, his estate has fought forgeries that flooded the art world market. In court Thursday, the Crown asked Justice Michelle First to sentence White to 2 years of house arrest. While the defense agreed with a 2-year sentence, they argued for 1/3 of that sentence to be on house arrest with the remainder on curfew, citing White's age and health problems as factors. White will turn 85 years old in April and has multiple lingering health issues pertaining to his knees and lungs. 4 victim impact statements were read in the courtroom Thursday from victims, each outlining a feeling of being taken advantage of. And a representative of Morrisseau's estate also addressed the court, citing the financial impact. 2 victims have also come forward seeking restitution totaling $10,000. Justice First asked White if he had anything to say to the court. He declined. And White's lawyers also declined to comment on the sentencing hearing today. 2 others co-accused pleaded guilty last year and were sentenced to 5 years in prison. White will be back in Newmarket on August 29th for the judge's sentencing. Meanwhile, White's co-accused David Paul Bremner is also scheduled for his sentencing later this month. Luke Simard, CTV News, Newmarket.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, you can go to aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The elections for the Mohawk Council of Kanesatake were postponed with little warning last week, following a decision by the former CEO of the election. All council mandates have been extended until a new election. However, the electoral officer suggests the electoral code needs amending before then. As APTN's Savannah Craig reports, the decision has caused frustration with many in Quebec.
We're supposed to have an election, we're hours away, and then next thing you know, it's canceled. Not a lot of information, so a lot of people were angry.
The decision led to a 2-day protest staged outside the Mohawk Council of Kanesatake.
This one was also put out by Graham Drew.
Kane Montour is the coordinator for the Kanesatake Perimeter Security.
It's kind of sad because there was elders here, there were some children here, and we got to lead by example, do better. And what I witnessed that day was just disrespectful, shameful, and something like that shouldn't happen.
With no election, the mandates for all 5 councillors have been extended, as instructed by Chief Electoral Officer Graham Drew.
The election has become unworkable because of the flaws in the electoral code, and rather than create all kinds of more problems to do with appeals and inappropriate, in this case, individuals that shouldn't be on the ballot, all kinds of things which I can go through. But it just didn't make sense to proceed any further with the election.
Drew is referring to 3 individuals on the ballots that he says have criminal records. Former Grand Chief Victor Bonspiel says he flagged this issue to Drew ahead of the election.
And I had brought this up at my nomination when I brought my papers into him. I said, "Are you going to be doing background checks?" And he said, "No." He said, "I won't do that unless a candidate or a member requests that another candidate be given a background check."
Drew says no criminal record was required in order to submit an application form to run. He says candidates are required to disclose they have no prior criminal record by signing a nomination form, which says they do not have a criminal record. He says a community member can prove a candidate has a criminal conviction 48 hours after he posts the candidates. Another red flag for the CEO was the assembly of an appeals board.
We had a very difficult time recruiting anyone that would be willing to sit on the board because of fear of retaliation or just not wanting to get involved in the dynamics of a kind of a toxic environment for leadership right now.
The appeals board requires a team of 3 individuals who must abstain from voting during the general election. In the event of a tie, the appeals board members' votes would determine the winner.
It's not democratic, so they're basically what they would be doing is voting over all of the electorate.
Some say the code must be revised, including Chief Brant Etienne.
It is actually missing critical components, and that is what makes it so difficult to work with.
But others are wondering why this wasn't done earlier, including Amanda Simon, who is running for chief.
They had 4 years to reform the code if that was a priority within their mandate. Why did they not do that in the 4 years?
Etienne says if the code is not adjusted before another election, the nomination form could be fraudulently signed again.
The submission of a criminal record for a candidate is voluntary, so thus they're able to fraudulently sign the nomination forms and get onto council. So until it's fixed, until there actually is concrete guidance on something like that, I think we're going to keep running into this problem, especially now that it's known.
Simon has requested the involvement of Minister of Indigenous Services Mandy Galmasti and Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations Rebecca Alty.
The intervention that I'm requesting is to launch an investigation into the conduct of the Chief Electoral Officer and any interference by sitting council members.
In response to a request for comment, both federal departments says Kanesatake follows a custom electoral code and not the Indian Act, so they have no jurisdiction. The council, whose mandate has been extended, says it needs to determine how to move forward.
There's a lot of different factors to consider, and we're going to be meeting on that shortly.
While the focus is on the election, Montour is hoping for an end to fighting within the community.
There's a lot of intergenerational trauma that's being carried on, and people, we're starting to see the effects of that, and I really wish that we can just really get back to being happy and, you know, and start seeing like the better things of Ganasadaga instead of always being portrayed as negative.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Ganasadaga, Mohawk Territory.
We now want to tell you about the results for last week's web poll questions. Our first question was, do you support the building of a pipeline from Alberta to the east coast of Canada? 44% of you voted yes and 56% said no. Our second question was, should cannabis shops on reserves be subject to federal laws? 34% said yes, 55% said no, and 11% said they were unsure. Our last question was, do you think the country is making progress in terms of reconciliation? 31% said yes, 47% said no, and 22% were unsure. Thanks for taking the time to cast your vote. To check out this week's new web poll questions, go to aptnnews.ca for our new set of questions. Our next guest is from the Montreal Lake Cree Nation in Saskatchewan and was last year's City of Regina's Indigenous Artist in Residence. We'll be right back with that interview. Miigwech for staying with us. St. John's 22 in sunny there, Charlottetown 27. 26 in Cartwright, Happy Valley Goose Bay 31. Saguenay 28, Montreal 30 in rain. 28 in Toronto, Sault Ste. Marie 27 and sunny there. Sudbury rain in 26, Thunder Bay 26 and sunny. Smoky in Nepaw at 18, Norway House 22. Smoky and Dauphin and Gimli 22 and 21 there. 22 in Regina, Smoky and Yorkton at 20. Larange 18, Meadow Lake sunny and 20. Rain in Fort McMurray at 16, Peace River 25. 30 in Lethbridge and sunny there, Medicine Hat 29. Tofino 23, Penticton 31. Smithers 19, Smokey and Prince Rupert at 14. Sunny and Breve Beaver Creek at 20, Whitehorse 16. Fort Liard 15 and Rain, Trout Lake 11. Fort McPherson 19, Colville Lake 16. 10 in Baker Lake and Sunny there, Chesterfield 12. And Resolute 4, Agulik 6. Our next guest, B Bird, is a rising artist from the Montreal Lake Cree Nation who was selected last year for the City of Regina's 2024 Indigenous Artist in Residence. For his art, he combined his love for film and camera work with Indigenous poetry and created a number of videos that draw connections of Indigenous professionals who walk in both Indigenous and Western worlds. And now he has created a new Buffalo Scholarship with the hopes of supporting emerging Indigenous filmmakers like himself. We recently spoke to B Bird from Regina. Here's that interview. B Bird, thanks so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about more about this new scholarship and where the idea came from?
Thank you for having me, Kristen. The scholarship is about creating opportunities for Indigenous youth who are passionate about film, photography, and the arts. I created a business called B Productions, and I always wanted to give back to the community, so I wanted to create something meaningful to give back to the youth. When I first started out, I realized it was hard to access gear or training or even just have encouragement. The scholarship came from wanting to remove some of those barriers, so the next generation of creators can focus on their storytelling and telling their stories in their own way, feeling without feeling like the industry is closed off to them, you know?
Yeah,
I call it the New Buffalo Scholarship because I see storytelling as education and education as powerful tools for survival. So it was like the buffalo that once provided for us and everything for our people, from food, shelter, clothing, and spiritual teaching. So it was central to who we are. And today, like things like film, media, and education help us to reclaim that space and power, and they let us tell our own stories and protect our culture and our languages. And I just wanted to give back to the community. I also made a GoFundMe page for this and to help grow this scholarship to add more recipients to it.
And B, tell us about the recent opportunity you had with the City of Regina here.
Yes, thank you. I was awarded the City of Regina's 2024 Indigenous Artist in Residence, and as part of that residency, I created 4 poetry videos with you, Creason, sessional Cree professor Darian Achkate, award-winning author Bevan Fox, retired Cree professor Solomon Rat. I've also hosted 4 poetry nights during this residency where we amplified Indigenous voices and helped them practice sharing their voice during these speaking engagements. So it was amazing to see my work highlighted from the City of Regina, and big shout out to the City of Regina. Thank you for that opportunity to help us tell our stories.
Yeah. And B, can you explain what got you interested in working in this field of arts and camera work?
I've always been drawn to the power of storytelling, and again, I realized that it was a tool to help amplify and inspire, also to share our stories. That mixture of culture, creativity, and technology is what hooked me. I love filmmaking. I love telling stories, and in our reserve, we didn't have much. We didn't have much when it came to filmmaking or creative outlets. So I moved from the reserve, and I attended First Nations University, taking the Inca program, and that's where I started the poetry nights as well too. So it really built up from there, and then I got into filmmaking. So yeah, it just really built from there.
And finally, B, can you explain how someone can sign up for the scholarship if they're interested and eligible?
Yes, actually, there's a few steps to take. If you email me at info@bproductionsinc.com, just have the subject line of New Buffalo Scholarship application. There's some instructions. Have a short bio, 250 words, an artist bio, a personal statement or a short video, maximum of 3 minutes, about why you tell stories and what this scholarship means to you. Your proof of Indigenous identity, like a status card or a letter from your nation or the community organization. The deadline is on October 15th. And we'll be awarding the recipient during Poetry Night at First Nations University on November 12th.
Right on, B. Bird. Well, we wish you all the best. Thank you for your time, and all the best on your journey ahead.
Thank you, Creason.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday. We're back again for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. Hi, miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching APTN National News Daytime. We'll see you again tomorrow. Exte.